Ready to see the best build in the entire game right now on the PTR is 100% this Barbarian build. So let's go ahead and go do the hardest content. Remember guys, they've actually scaled the pit. It is completely reworked in terms of the numbers. Tier 100 is the highest tier of the pit. There's nothing higher than this. So this is a crazy Thorns Barbarian build. This build does just insanity in terms of its damage. Now it'll take a second to ramp up because we have to spend resources in order for the build to actually work properly, but don't worry, we will absolutely deal crazy amounts of damage in a moment here. It's just going to take a second for things to start ramping up, but once we spend the correct resources, everything will pretty much get one-shotted, including the Rift Guardian, which you guys will see. And it is really, really OP. Now, will this get nerfed? I don't know, but what I can tell you though is it's very, very good. Now, we've had stuff that was noted as to be way, way overpowered, and that made it through. I mean, the Bash Barb was one of them. Heck, that Tybalt bug on the Rogue actually lasted the whole season, so who knows? If this does get nerfed, though, it is still relatively strong. Obviously, it's not going to be as strong as this, but there's actually another Spiritborn build that I've been theory crafting, and it's on the same levels of this, because Thorns goes crazy. It could be some sort of scaling issue, but nonetheless, this build is top tier, man. It is absolutely top tier. Now, there's a player that uploaded this on Bilibili first, so I can't take like full credit for the build, but I have made, just like a lot of other content creators, we've all been making kind of different variants of this, and my version of it does not require the Greater Affix Harlequin, which is a very nice thing to not require in a build, because getting Greater Affixes on the Mythic Uniques, well, it's not the easiest thing. To get the one that you want, and then also masterworking can kind of be an issue. But sometimes you may notice that, like, on the increased health enemies, I don't know for what reason, they may not interact properly with this build. They seem to actually have more HP than the, like, pit boss, which is really weird because the pit boss usually has so much HP that it makes the fight take forever, right? But, yeah, like I said, the increased health ones, you could kind of skip out on those. Those enemies, again, I don't know what the coding is for it, but it definitely seems like there's something that's not working properly on them. But pretty much just one-shotting most of the stuff, as you can see. It's very, 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 very powerful. We actually don't want to take Protection Shrine, and the reason why we don't really want to take it is because our Thorns is what gives us damage. However, with this Thorns build, we ignore unit collision, and then we get to deal our Thorns damage after we activate something with a cooldown. So it's very good because you don't actually need to do the Thorns damage activation, which usually makes Thorns build a little bit slower because they would need to actually, like, you know, attack. They need to hit you, right, in order to deal the damage, but yeah, you don't even need that. But you can see just crazy amounts of damage. Now we're going to go to the boss. Now it's very important on the boss over here that you start your swing over here, and then we are going to activate our stuff. So we're going to do this first, and then we can go do this, and then we go to the boss, and usually they'll die in like 1 second. You can technically one-shot them. I have multiple clips of it, but you guys get the idea. It's probably not supposed to be this powerful, but someone was asked what's the most powerful build on the PTR. I gotta go with this one. Now, I'll give you guys a quick little rundown of the build, and then I will also upload a Mobalytics build guide, like a more proper build guide, but I want to show you guys the most powerful build and also get your ideas for theory crafting this build, as a lot of people are kind of tinkering around with different variants of this. And again, I'll link the original creator of this down below. Now, first off, let's go over the most important thing. What causes this build to do this crazy amount of damage that we're able to clear a pit 100, making it look like it's just nothing? So for starters, on the skill tree, we are running the brand new Barbed Carapace. This is a brand new thing in Season 6 and in the expansion pack that you get access to. So it's for every 25 Fury you spend, you gain Thorns. And then on top of that, when you cast a skill with a cooldown, it's going to grant you Unhindered, which doesn't actually matter because Whirlwind already has Unhindered, basically, which lets you move through the enemies. But it does give you another bonus, and that is your movement speed cannot be reduced. But what is really good is during this time, we get 100% of our Thorns as physical damage to close enemies every second. So that's how you're going to be ticking. Again, you can literally get there's a clip by Rob Shouston. He has like infinite damage. Like he actually gets the infinity symbol for damage, which is crazy. You can get that much damage with this build. So you don't actually need to maybe get this much damage in the build. You can probably make this build way tankier, and more tankiness equals actually more damage. So anyways, Barbed Carapace is the thing that makes this build up and running, because again, your Thorns goes crazy in damage, but you would have to wait for the enemy to smack you, right? Don't actually need to wait for that. So that's basically number one. Number two is getting 30 plus points into Tough as Nails. Now, if you don't get this, it's not going to deal nearly as much damage. So it increases your Thorns by a huge amount, and then when enemies hit you, they take a percent of your Thorns as bleeding damage over a duration. I'm wondering if you can actually scale this as well. Could be something to consider, but like I'm talking about the bleed. But right now we're in the earlier iterations of this build. But even if you don't hit the 30 ranks, it's still pretty crazy, but at specifically 30 and above, which was noted, that it just seems to do crazy amounts of damage. Now, I've played at 26 ranks. It is, again, not nearly as good, but it's still a pretty top tier, S tier build, as far as I can tell. It's still going to be very good, even if they nerf like the 30 points into it. Now, if they remove the temper completely, well, goodbye to the build, just like every build that was in the previous season with Trick Attacks, when Trick Attacks got deleted out of the game for the temper rolls. It now only rolls on specifically like Hal of the Nameless. But nonetheless, those are the two things that is causing the crazy damage. Now that we have that like info out of the way, let's go over kind of a rough draft of the build. Then I'll give you guys my thoughts and kind of my different changes to the other variants that I've seen people play around with. So for starters, I decided to make the build very friendly. You can see no Harlequin needed. Now I was running with it before to see if it was better, and honestly getting the extra cooldown, the extra armor, those things are actually quite nice. It does help out quite a bit to reach cap because it doesn't require you to play another skull, which helps out with the resistances, because resistances, obviously you need to cap your resistances. But this thing over here definitely can make the build better, but I want to show you guys you can play without it. In fact, it's actually going to be easier to gear without it because it gives you another item to roll Tough as Nails. So basically, let's go over the gear, let's go over the skill tree, and let's go over like everything here. Again, usually I'd include a Mobalytics link, but they are still kind of updating the website, and so I will eventually add one here, and I'll make a more proper build guide. Usually I have the gameplay playing out the whole time, but I'm just going to do a quick draft one, so I don't have to like make it over there. And then this one will serve as kind of the gameplay, but I expect this build probably to get nerfed, but who knows. So first off, we're running the Grasping Whirlwind, and we actually want the helmet for Fury per second. That's one thing I actually liked over the Harlequin. While this does give us maximum resource, it does not give us Fury per second, which actually is huge. This technically also can give us cooldown, but that's what you can go for. And then we're running Whirlwind to pull, and then we're also running this one over here. So this one gives you more DR for a life that you're missing. You can run whatever you want, to be honest, but you want Tough as Nails and then Fury per second. Those are the two pieces of gear that you want Fury per second on. If you want to run a third one or another spot, like you just happen to get an armor that didn't have it, you can also just get something with a greater affix on Fury per second and just have one, but that's, you know, going to be nice if you can get it. And then for the gloves over here, Tough as Nails again, it's like the only important thing. We're running Intercom. Now you can proc Intercom with Whirlwind, you just have to kind of sit in a corner where a character does not move. It's kind of a free slot though, to be honest. We also have Bull Kathos, so it's really that Earthquakes just grant us damage reduction. That's the only thing that it does here, and we get our Earthquakes in two different ways, which we'll go over. But this over here is going to make it so we get extra movement speed, but again, Tough as Nails. And then we also have the Needle Flare, so when we get the Thorns damage, that's going to do AoE Thorns damage. And then we're also running the Runeword Yugioh, which gives us the casting a cooldown will guarantee us more HP. More HP equals more damage with the build, which we'll go over. And then we're also running Needle Flare, so that's the AoE Thorns one. And then we are running Elements, so just more physical damage is what we actually want. But we also want to try to temper in the Earthquakes to cast twice, as well as getting the Earth. There's actually one that has the Earthquake duration. That one's also good, so we can have more of that. Doombringer for more HP. More HP does equals more damage. And then we have Accelerating to increase our attack speed. Getting more and more attack speed is good in this build. If you could even fit in Dariel's, it would make the build even better, because then we can spend resources faster. But there is kind of technically a max limit. It'll just let you max out faster though. But with this over here, we have the Bold Chieftains, just so we can have our shouts and stuff up more often. Then we have Starless Skies, just to get resource cost reduction. You technically want to spend resources, but there is a point where like you're just draining your resources too fast. So it's kind of like a balance of it. The only thing that's good on here is attack speed. The rest of the stats literally do not matter on the build. And then we also have the Earthquakes over here. You can see we got Tough as Nails. That's the main thing that you want. And then also Ground Stomp creates an earthquake, and then while standing in an earthquake, you get a big multiplier. So honestly, I want to try to run this build without earthquakes completely, because the earthquakes, you do kind of have to stand in them to get the bonus. There may be some other options later down the line with some uniques that could make this build even better, but a lot of times you do want tough as nails in a lot of these categories. That is the key thing to hit. My amulet is actually pretty bad though. We don't really want like the GA life and damage. We can get like triple offensive ones. That would be ideal, and that would give us crazy damage. But those are the main things that you're kind of looking for. Now, as far as the skill tree goes, the first few points literally pretty much don't matter. Other than you want Whirlwind, you may not need to take this. I just figured like, if you bleed the enemies, there's some sort of bonuses that you get where you like slow the enemies or whatever. But for the most part, the most important thing is the toughest nails. Then you also get Outburst, which gives you more thorns for more HP that you have. So this is really great for that. In fact, you can actually just put 1 point into it, and it still works. Like I can still one-shot a boss even with only 1 point into this. Was testing that out. Was also testing without 30 ranks. The 30 ranks on here is very important to hit at least 30. If you go under, it's significantly less damage, but it's still an S tier build, which is crazy. And then we're just running like the kind of the standard stuff. We also have like Iron Skin. We got the Challenging Shout, Warcry for more damage over here, which is quite great. Also Raid Leader, more movement speed. If you want to put more points in this, you can. It's like extra damage, but I just had an extra point here. Most of the stuff just dies in one hit anyways, but it's just extra damage here. And then we have extra damage. You want to get as much damage as possible, and then we run Duelist because we actually need to make it so we use 2 one-handers. We want as many spins as possible, so that's why we don't run Bludgeoning, which is kind of something that you've seen maybe previously in Whirlwind. And then we also run the Barbed Carapace. This is very important, which we already kind of went over. But as far as the Paragon board now, so we start off with the Challenger. So starting off with Challenger just gives us a massive amount of strength. And then we move into the second one, which is going to be Exploit. I like this one a lot because it automatically applies it. There is something that you can make Whirlwind apply. It's your core and weapon mastery skills that have a chance to make enemies vulnerable, which is kind of nice to get. There's also this one over here. After overpower, you can get a bonus. There is like a weapon swap variant where like you can get the bonus on it, but I decided to run Intercom instead, rather just keep that 10x the whole time. But if you wanted to, you could take that one, and in theory it could work. But anyways, yeah, we're running Exploit because I really like the automatic vulnerability. It just makes the build feel way smoother. Huge quality of life. We don't actually run this one. It's actually a pretty good board though. It's a brand new one. It's called Force of Nature. Even though our earthquakes can spawn the Dust Devils, or earthquake damage is increased, it doesn't matter. We don't deal damage with earthquakes. The damage is with the thorns. And then we move into the Blood Rage with the Ire, so we can get the Blood Rage node to be 30x over here, where we clear a bleeding enemy. That's where I applied the bleed for free. And also the expertise is Two-Handed Axe. So let me go over that real quick just before I forget. So Two-Handed Axe expertise is pretty much in every single build for Barbarian. And then we are going to be running the Ambidextrous, so that's going to give us increased damage while we use one-handed weapons, and we're running 2 one-handers, and that is in the Carnage board. This one gives us even more attack speed. We want to get as much attack speed as possible, because more attack speed equals more resources spent. And then we go into Decimator because it's just another free thing to get, and then we run Revenge because it's a Thorns build, and dealing damage to enemies when you do Thorns is going to kind of just ramp up, and it's a nice little multiplier. It's a 35.8x%, and it's a huge bonus to all of the rare nodes, so we get the bonus on the vulnerable over here, and the bonus to physical, which of course that is our build, so it kind of works out really good here. So that is going to kind of wrap up the draft version of this build. If you guys have any suggestions, oh, you know what, I forgot to go over this one real quick. The earthquakes. So how it works is we're also running Lilith Tech. So it's Yugioh and Lilith Tech. What this does is if you stand still, it's going to activate Earthquake. Now you can get Earthquakes to activate if you go into the corner and you just spin, or sometimes if there's just a wall, you could still kind of move and it will still count. I've noticed that. So it just gives you the free Earthquake without activating Ground Stomp, but you can activate Ground Stomp anyways because it does give you Fury. This is one thing that I've noticed when I was looking at other variants of the build, because this is my take on the build. But when I was looking at some other content creators' variants of the Thorns Barbarian, because this is 100% the best build in the game, because after I saw it, I was like, okay, we got to try out this build. There was a huge resource problem. Get 1 point in a Ground Stomp because you need it, unless you're running Harlequin. But running this made the build so much smoother. And then on top of that, getting the Fury in the helmet, the chest piece, or the boots really made the build way smoother. Otherwise, you're going to notice your resources drains. And I was like, what the heck? How are they upkeeping it? There's other ways to upkeep it with a ring if you want to roll a ring with like Fury per second. You can also think about running anger management to guarantee yourself the berserking, because there's a lot of bonuses, obviously, while berserking, but there's a lot of different ways that you can play the build. This is my take on it, and here's kind of my like draft version of it. But let me know your thoughts down below. Have you guys played this, and do you guys think it's going to get nerfed? Like I said, I kind of expect it to, but if it does make it past it, this is definitely the 100% best build in the entire game. But let's be real, everyone's going to be rolling Spiritborn, including myself, and there's going to be a Thorn Spiritborn build that I'm going to be dropping as soon as it comes out, unless it gets nerfed before it comes out. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit sub, turn the bell on if you guys want to see more content, and check the pin. I will eventually upload the build guide for this one, like a more proper one, but I just want to get this one out there. But take care, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.